Welcome to The Shift. We are introducing a brand new MLB podcast, most likely on a weekly basis between me and my co-host Chase Canali. You guys know where to find us on Twitter. You guys know me from a bunch of things, Jersey Betting, Gen F Media, SGPN, but this is a new one. This is an exciting one. I've done a baseball podcast in the past, but I never really was up to date with it, but I got a very good co-host, my resident baseball guy for Jersey Betting. You guys see his articles like 3-4 times a week, and good friend. Happy to bring on one of my longtime friends and one of my first ever like true baseball friends. Knows more about the game than a lot of people. I could strongly say that. And that's why I asked him to do the show for me. Glad we're finally able to work it out. And that is Chase Canali, Slight Edge. Welcome to the pod, Chase. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. It's
Yeah.
got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is going to be a good show. Me and Chase always we chop it up on a daily basis, just talking mainly Mets, but just the entire league. Chase is one of the only guy who I would say like is a better fantasy baseball player than me. Not DFS, like straight like ESPN head to head weekly fantasy baseball. This kid is like dialed into that on a daily basis, knows all the pitchers, knows all the hitters. So we're gonna do a division by division macro level thoughts, and also we're going to go into some fantasy stuff at the end. So before we get into that type of stuff, how has like the first 2 weeks of the baseball season been to you from like a betting standpoint, and also just like as a fan, like overall baseball? How's it been?
There's been some surprises. The Rays started off with that historic streak. They're looking like one of the best teams ever made. They got least runs allowed. They got most runs scored. They're hitting homers every other at bat. So that's been impressive. Dodger. It's interesting to see how teams like the Dodgers and Astros coming out a little slow. Orioles are an exciting team to watch. But I don't know. It just been feels good to have baseball back. A lot
I
of
know
changes.
that is your bread and butter.
Yeah, it's a lot of different rule changes, a lot of controversy. So it's
Yeah,
it's
but we'll definitely touch on those rule changes. How has before we get into that, I know you've been putting out those articles and your picks like weekly. How has your baseball season gone from like a betting standpoint? Because I know you like don't bet too much, but I know you bet those games that you put out. How has that gone for you?
Yeah, I've been decent. I'm in the greens. I can't complain. But
Can't complain. Can't complain.
I'm doing some parlays. Getting some pitcher K's in there, taking advantage of Senga just being back in the league. The line, they don't really know what to do with those lines yet. But
Yeah. Early season, you got to exploit those lines, and even like on like the money line, sometimes like the elite teams are priced softer. Like you can get teams who are around the -120 range in like a month or two, they'll be -170 at like a very similar spot. So exploit those while you can. So talking about the rule changes, how do you feel about the pitch clock? Personally, I love it. Like personally, I love it. What about you?
I guess I'm getting acclimated to it, but like when you got to drive 2 hours to go to a game and it's already it's already that expense, and then if you're worried about getting late in traffic, it's like getting a drink, getting food. It's a little challenging nowadays going to a baseball game. You might have to leave work like an extra 30 minutes early or an hour early just to make sure you get on that train or wherever you need to go. Because I went to a game where personally I felt like I knew exactly where to get a drink, came back, but I didn't miss a pitch. Like got in there as the first pitch was coming out. So like I was happy, but it was stressful because I thought I had left myself plenty of time to get there, and then it's like I don't know. That can suck if you're in and out of the ballpark in 2 hours. But for TV purposes, it's when you're playing a team like
Well,
the A's. There's time. It's at the end of the day, like these guys do want to get home, and I understand it's better for the game overall. But it's there's always pros and cons. So
yeah, well, looking at it from like a in-person standpoint, you know City Field better than like anyone. You're there like two times
yeah,
a week. So, and you know the spot to go to get a drink, you know how to get back to your seat fast. But like the average fan, they're going to want to walk around, take a look at the menu, and that takes a while. They're going to miss a damn inning or two while like you don't want to miss a pitch. So, I
dude,
get from like
if I was going there with my family, like wife and kids, like oh
it'd be a
god,
mess. It'd
oh
be a
god.
mess. Like it's no longer like a day at the ballpark. Like you're in and out of there fairly quick. But
Yeah.
from that point of view, like I could see why you wouldn't like that. But for the TV, it is really good to watch because
Yeah,
I watch games at home. I watch MLB TV, like have that shit dual wield. Like they're throwing the pitch back to the catcher, like pitcher's ready. Like it's
yeah,
good to watch. It makes baseball more exciting, and I think it had to be done because the fan testament was just so like this is so boring, it's so boring, and
yeah.
it's happening like that in golf, which I've been talking about the last few weeks. Something had to have been done, and Major League Baseball is a league that doesn't really is not very progressive, and they kind of did what the fans wanted. So we'll see how it goes after this year. I don't think they're gonna do it in the postseason though, but I don't know if you've heard
That's
anything
all
about
I'm
that.
gonna say. Like, I'm on your side. I'm with it. Guys are getting used to it, but I can't see it in the playoffs. That's all I'm gonna ask. Like, I
Yeah,
really don't want to
I
see
don't
it.
think they will because they didn't do the second base runner in the playoffs, the in extra innings. So I
Yeah,
doubt they'll just bring that into it in the first year.
I
So
hope not.
yeah, but besides that, the early season has been pretty well. Like our Mets look okay with not 100% healthy. We're doing well betting up around 8.5 units. I tweeted out once we went over 10 units, then we had 2 losing days, but in the green, just like Chase, cannot complain. So enough about the early season thoughts. Let's get into the American League East. Obviously, Chase touched on the Rays being coming out of the gate, just winning all those games. And hand up, was I wrong about the A's? Like I bet their season win total under. I was like, the Rays cannot piece another season like this together where they just bullpen game after bullpen game. And look, it's working early. How's your thoughts about the Rays?
I mean, they always say the Rays gonna Ray. Like, I'm not that the Rays are one of those teams. I'm either not gonna touch the over under or I'm gonna take the over. There was a lot of I had a lot of predictions for team totals this year that I liked. Some are looking great, some are looking good, but the Rays, they just can't. They might. I think they have the best rotation in baseball. Honestly, it's like
It is
McClanahan's
pretty scary.
untouchable, Springs is untouchable, Rasmussen is untouchable, and then they're about to get Glasnow back. Like, that's a scary team. That's why
And,
I
and
mean, I'm repping the jersey right here. We got
yeah,
one. We got that bad
that is a strong jersey.
that bad man up. So
Well, like you said, like when they get Glasnow back, they proved to have been able to piece it together without him in the past, and we know how good he can be when he's fully healthy. So I don't know. I was really low on the Rays this year, so
I don't
I
know,
don't.
dude. I don't see how a team could beat those four guys in a rotate like in a 7 game series. Like, if they're hitting
No,
the
you might
ball,
be right.
if they're putting up 4 or 5 runs a game, they could win. They could. I don't know. That's a scary team.
So the two favorites in the AL East was Toronto and the Yankees, of course. Yankees, I wouldn't say there'd be concerns about any of those teams out the gates. You're not going to win all your games the first 2 weeks. I think both of them look fine. Any glaring weaknesses or bright spots about those two teams you want to touch on?
Yeah. I mean, Gossman's been phenomenal. He just
Except for
came off.
tonight, he wasn't good tonight.
Really?
Yeah, I
I,
think he
uh,
pitched tonight.
yeah, I didn't even. I haven't been paying attention to the score too much.
Yeah, 7 earned in three innings.
Yikes!
First bad start.
That's not good. Barrios is trying to figure it out. Kikuchi, Bassett, they all had good starts. Bichette looks like what we expect him to be. Hopefully he's coming into his prime years here. He's batting 375, 4 home runs. Chapman's might cool down a little bit, but Chapman's might be the best hitter in the AL. Off the gate, he's batting 421. He had that ridiculous stretch last week, and now Vladdy's coming into it. So that lineup's deep. And as if they're
Yeah,
pitchers, their whole staff is guys. That's it's like
right.
their whole staff could turn it on at any given moment. Like, Manoah's gonna do what Manoah does. Like, we saw what Bassett did as Mets fans. Like, you can like it, you might not love it. He eats innings, but is he gonna come through in the playoffs? I don't know. But Barrios and
It's very
Kikuchi
true.
Kikuchi was a fantasy god like a couple years ago. So it's like
Yeah.
I remember
No,
he
I like what you said how like their rotation is all guys you know. So like they don't really have like that one stud like in their prime of his career. I mean, you
yeah
could argue about that, but like it's all guys who have proven to be elite pitchers at one point and can have that game where they're 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, something like that. And that's a great thing to have from like 1 through 5, 1 through 4 on your staff. And obviously we know what that infield can do. It's a good lineup, 1 through 9. So I think Toronto could be well. Yankees, they're my pick to win the World Series. It sucks to say it as a Mets fan. I just think they're just due. I mean, you could say what you want. I picked the Phillies to get there last year, and it worked. So, I mean, how do you feel about the Yankees?
Yankees, they're a little banged up, just like the Mets out the gate. Like I think they're off a little worse than we are. But Cole, Cole was like a Cy Young kind of like sprinkle, kind of like no brainer. You always throw a little bit on him because he's never had a Cy Young. So it's like you're saying the Yankees
Mm-hmm.
are due. Garrett Cole's due. He's due, and
I,
he's looking like he's due. The only guy he's probably gonna have to go up against is Otani. He's gonna be MVP. I mean, he was MVP all day right out the gate. So it's like, but Cortez is looking good. There's that whole stuff going on with German. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see some of that on Twitter, but I didn't
Yeah,
look too deep into it.
their lineup didn't do too much this week. Rizzo had 3 homers, 9 hits. Judge has 5 on the year. Slow down a little bit, but
So the bottom half, the bottom two of the AL East, Baltimore and Boston, they're both like major wild cards because Boston has like one of the weirdest lineups in baseball. It's like a lineup of I could see that Boston team like going on a 10-game winning streak or going on a 10-game losing streak, and I wouldn't be surprised either way because it's such a random group of guys who have shown potential. And then Baltimore is just so young and so fun, and their prime years are in front of them. And I said preseason that I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, a little sophomore slump, and they look fine out the gates. They probably look a little better than I thought they would, but I don't think that's out of the cards. That I don't think they have like the best lineup, and those young studs are definitely, I guess, due for some regression because they're young. But how do you feel about that bottom half of the AL East?
AL East is a solid division overall. I mean,
Yeah,
I think now there's not really a debate on what the best division in baseball is. I mean, obviously it's early, but like I mean
right.
they kind of had that last year along with the NL East, but the NL East has digressed a little bit off the beginning of the year. But I don't know. Baltimore's if I wish I was a Baltimore fan because that's an exciting team to watch.
Right.
Rutsch just looks like an absolute monster. Everything he was hyped up to be, and probably more. Um,
Adley
Mateo,
walking off games.
dude, crazy. He's going. He went absolutely nuts this past week, and it was like Mateo stealing basemans, Mullins stealing bases. They each got like 8 on the year. So Mateo's hitting the way he's hitting. Mountcastle's got 6 homers, 20 RBIs. Like Mountcastle is absolutely going off right now. So that's a fun team. Their pitching just needs to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the pitching was always going to be a question mark for them, but
They're gonna be looking
adding
at the line for something.
adding Kyle Gibson was definitely fun because he's a guy who has like he's a very streaky pitcher. He'll have a month of great
That's a
pitching
good
and then a
move.
month of
It's a good
yeah,
move.
definitely a good move. So that basically wraps up the AL East. We're not going to talk about each division too much on like what we think is going to happen because it's going to be like a weekly podcast and talk about more about like the week to week stuff. But this is the first one, so we kind of did that for the AL East. Moving on to the AL Central. Bigger storylines in the AL Central. Minnesota looks like they're back to get to the playoffs. They look like the team that they were the last 5 years. And the White Sox are disappointing me so much because I think that lineup should just be so much better than they are. But the books are starting to, like last year, we never really got a break on the White Sox. Like they were always like priced like, okay, they're going to go on a run. And they never went on that run. And like this past week, they were like home underdogs to Baltimore, which is crazy to think about. Like Chicago White Sox are home underdogs to Baltimore. Like White Sox, like past 3 years have been the sneaky wild World Series team, and they're home underdogs to Baltimore for no reason. Like I know they I think they lost 2 out of the 3 games too. So I'm
Yeah.
disappointed by the White Sox. How are you feeling about like the top half of the AL Central?
AL Central, it's hard to figure it out at first. That AL Central is kind of just a toss up all the time, and
Yeah,
it's a division you're kind of scared of when you're looking at over-unders to start the year. But the Twins, I mean, they're looking like they might be the real deal. They just signed Lopez. Um, Lopez looks absolutely filthy. He's got the 1.7
yes,
ERA, like 11.5 Ks per nine. Sonny Gray's looking really good. Joe Ryan's looking really good. Their pitching staff is definitely
for
figuring it
sure.
out. And hitting wise, they could probably do a little better. But they had White Sox and Yankees. That's a tough week.
Yeah, I agree with your statements on the Twins. I feel like they're probably the team to beat in AL Central because I could be wrong. I don't think that the Cleveland Guardians are just going to continue that pace of just being the top half team. That last year was so impressive to me after they lost the guys that they lost coming into the season last year, and they still pieced it together. But they're a question mark. The Royals are you know how high I was on the Royals last year, and they just were so bad. I was like buying every Royals future last year, and they just were
Royal
so
stock,
fucking bad. Royal
buy
stock,
low.
and you're gonna still be able to buy low because they suck. They have literally no pitchers, and the lineup's not even good anymore. So how are you feeling about like the middle to bottom half of the AL Central out the gates? Because the Tigers look bad too.
Hey, if you're going to if you're going to Kansas City Stadium, you're going to see Bobby Witt. He is an
Bobby
absolute
Witt,
12 hits,
yeah,
7 runs. Fran Mills starting to get it going. That could be a Mets deadline piece. Get Fran Reyes over there. Brad Keller's doing Brad Keller things. That's a nice guy you want to get on fantasy. Um, Tigers, they're playing fun ball. They had a winning week actually with that post moment, and
they
Maton had
did.
to run walk off. Um, Turnbull threw some good innings. Baez 4 for 8 after being benched. I don't know if you want to buy any Baez stock right now. That's a risky gamble, but could pay off.
Yeah, we know what Bias could be when he wants to be the guy he once was and when he's locked in. But that stuff last week was so weird. Him just like being so out of the games, like missing, like not tagging up on fly balls. Like it was very weird stuff. It just looked like Javi Baez is just not there to play baseball, just there for the paycheck. Which like check it makes sense if you know who Javi Baez is, like playing in Detroit. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't care much.
WBC hot. WBC
Yes.
hobby is the guy you want. You don't want.
Exactly. You don't want Detroit Tigers, Javi. All right, let's move over to the American League West. Definitely a fun division. Out the gates, my sentiment on the Texas Rangers is coming true. They look awesome. They have a super fun lineup with obviously a really high caliber pitching lineup. If you look through 1 to 5, um, besides that, the Houston Astros a little bit of a slump, and I figured that would happen too out the gates. World Series hangover. They're losing they don't have some of their best hitters in the lineup. How is the top half of the AL West, including the Angels? How does it look to you?
Yeah, AL West is looking strong this year. Mariners 4-2. They're starting to figure it out. They played Chicago and Colorado, so it's not a huge, not the greatest teams. But Kellenic looks like he's going off this year. He's finally starting to.
Is it going to happen? Or is it going to happen, Chase?
I feel like Mets fans are like more obsessed with Kellenic than actual Mariners fans because everyone's just like, come on, suck. Like we
Yeah.
want to make this deal even better, but I'm not going to root against the guy. I mean, 4 straight games with a home run. He hit one almost 500 feet the other day.
Dude, that was a absolute nuke.
He had 10 hits, 7 RBIs, 4 home runs. France looks good. Teoscar got 8 hits.
Teoscar was such a good get.
Gilbert and Kirby can turn it on at any moment. Luis Castillo, he looks
He's
like
Cy Young.
He looks filthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Mariners look good. Rangers, like you said, their payroll is finally starting to return some of those dollars. They got Heaney looking great. Himes hitting walk-offs.
If Himes can like contributing at all, they're gonna be good. Like if that motherfucker is getting hit, they're gonna do good. Because he was like my what were you gonna say? He was my one guy. I was like, I think he's like the low piece of the team.
With the AL catcher competition, like Himes going to be an all-star. He's definitely going to be an all-star.
It is true because the catchers just like suck.
Dude, they put who's the Yankees catcher?
Yeah, fucking what's his name?
I don't even know his name because he's not good.
Higashioka or Trevino? Trevino.
Trevino. They put Trevino in the All-Star game last year. I was like, come on, bro, like that's your All-Star, but it's whatever.
It's whatever. All right. The AL West is kind of a boring division because every single season I tee up the Angels to do something well, and they never will ever do it. So I maxed the Angels win total this year. One of the biggest baseball bets I've ever played, just because I was like, if they don't do it this year, it will never happen ever. So
that's so risky.
Angels,
they could.
well, like No, it's only 82 and a half games, which is one thing, but I
Yeah,
think their aspirations are higher than winning 82 and 83 games. If they don't make the playoffs this year, like see ya show high. Like I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like
dude, they
it's
almost blew
now or
it
never.
today. They almost blew it today. They would have been 4 games swept wraparound to Boston. It's like, how are you gonna lose 4 games to Boston? Almost. I mean, well, they
Yeah.
should have.
All right, that wraps up the AL. We'll move to the NL, our division that we live and die by. Atlanta, New York at the top. Both of those teams look really solid. The Mets are more impressing me than Atlanta because I thought the Mets would come a little bit slow out the gates with the injuries. And Atlanta, just the roster. Like before I dove into baseball this year, like the roster wise, I was like, okay, maybe Atlanta will take a little bit of a step back. No, they won't. They're out and hot and better than ever. How is the top half of the NL East treating you, and how are you viewing it? And you could take your time with this one because I know you write that piece on the Mets series every single week, and you're obviously watch more NL East baseball than most people.
Yeah. The Braves didn't lose this week. They won 6-0. Granted, they played the Royals in red, so those are games the Braves are going to win. If you do gamble, normally when you bet on the Braves, it turns out pretty well. You could probably for the past 20 years.
Right, right.
That's always like investing in some Apple stock. Even Braves run line. Don't be scared. They're
Don't
going
be
to clock
scared.
this year. They're just absolute monsters. Grissom came back. Everyone was questioning whether Arcia deserved it. He got hurt. Grissom came back. He got a game-winning hit. So it's like, Murphy turns out to be one of the. Everyone knew that was a steal when they signed that deal, and Murphy,
And it's
Murphy
paying
got
off already.
doubles. Olsen looks really good. Acuna could be MVP candidate. So it's a tough division, but the Mets they're hanging in there. They're 2 games back. We had a good week, 5-1. That San Diego series. I went to a game. I went to game 2, unfortunately. So it was a tough game to go to, but we did what we had to do against Oakland, and those last 2 games they were close, but we found a way to get out of it. Scherzer finally had a good outing. Carrasco did all right. Budo came up, did good. Senga and McGill look really good. Peterson, our pitching staff doesn't seem to be like an issue right now, but hopefully we get JV back at the end of the month. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I agree. I agree, and I'm impressed by the Mets. I think like I said, I thought they'd do a little worse than they are. I mean, I don't. You're a bigger Mets fan than me, but the Mets are truly the only team that I'm like actually passionate about. Like you know me, Chase. I'm like with my fandom. I'm way more passionate about the Mets than like the Panthers and stuff like that. And I've been
really,
that way for like the last like yeah, like the last like 2-3 years. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because like I never played baseball competitively and I like wanna root for them. But besides like Will Zalatoris right there. Like the Mets are like what I'm most passionate about like in a sport sense. I'm more passionate about like my bet and stuff like that than a team besides the Mets. So I'm happy
yeah,
to see them thriving and doing what they should be doing. So let's talk about the Phillies real quick. Obviously, defending National League champions, didn't almost win the World Series, went to the World Series and didn't really do anything. They don't look good at all, and it's kind of upsetting. I know they're dealing with some injuries, but still, that lineup should be doing better than they are.
yeah. Lineup struggling a little bit. We're 3-4 versus the Reds and Marlins this week.
Yeah,
Schwarber's got 15 hits. Castellanos 10 hits. Boom. They had a couple blowout games, which makes their numbers a little better than it was. But Trey Turner looks good. Their offense could turn it on. I'm not really worried about their offense, but they need to have some better pitching too. Their pitcher's been struggling.
Wheeler looks bad out the gates, like real bad. He was bad in spring training, and he doesn't look good the first week and a half he started.
Yeah. Um,
Weird to
they
see.
Phillies started off the season last year like this, and they ended up going to the World Series. So I'm not hitting the panic train just yet.
Yeah,
Because it
and we know
smells
what
like
Washington did in 19. Like started off like
smells
nine
like
and
Philly.
20.
Smells like Philly last year a lot, and I don't know if I want to see that, but I definitely
Right.
don't want. I definitely don't want the Mets from last year. I'd rather get a wild card and see us get in hot. I don't even care about winning the division because last year just like
Right.
ripped my heart
Meaningless.
out. You know, it was
Yeah.
just I don't give like just end the year hot. That's what you got to do in any sport. So I don't care. I don't care.
100%. And Miami looks just like kind of how Miami you think they'd look. They're very pesky.
Yeah,
They win the low scoring games. They'll never really win those 10 to
that was
9
my
games, those
favorite over
extra.
under. I didn't. Before I knew what the over under was, I said slam Miami over under because I just woke up one morning and I saw it and that was then the line moved up quite a bit, but I think they could still hit that 77, 78 total.
Yeah, they're 9-8 out the gates, and they haven't really hit well. So I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
a good start for the
Yeah,
Marlins.
that's what the Marlins can do. Like if the Marlins hit a decent amount, they could be so good. But like
Yeah,
if
and they
even
have guys. They have guys. Their 1, 2, 3 punch at the top of the order is one of the most fun in the entire league. It's
yeah,
like
but their ownership's got to step it up a little bit.
I agree. All right, we'll move on. We won't even touch on the Nationals because they're just a joke of a franchise. We will move over
Yeah.
to the National League Central, where Milwaukee leads the way and Pittsburgh is a very, very, very fun team. What's your overwhelming thoughts on the National League Central?
National League Central. The Brewers. There, I was skeptical to take the Cardinals. I put a little and I invested a little bit of dinero on the Brewers winning the division because I did it last year and it didn't turn out well. So I tried to double down. I don't know why. I didn't even know. I didn't do too much research into their rookies, but they got a lot of exciting guys. They got Weimer. Some of their young dudes are looking good out the gate. They're probably going to digress a little bit. But Burns finally had a good start. Rowdy
Yeah,
Tellez, 4 home runs, 8 hits, 8 RBIs. How about that boy Rowdy? Wade Miley. Wade
that's
Miley's
a
on an
staff they
absolute
got.
tear, dude. Wade Miley is on an absolute tear. Good for him. You might hear a little bit about him later. Um, we got the Cubs. They're off to a hot start. So are the Pirates. Honestly, Cubs and Pirates surprising a lot of people. Reds are doing what the Reds would do. They got a lot of Reds got a lot of exciting guys. Like I might tune into a couple Reds games this year just to see Ashcraft and Green and Ladola do what they do because those are some dudes that can absolutely sling it. I think if you're gonna invest some stock in some strikeout numbers this year, as long as they stay healthy. I mean, you should be taking Ashcraft over in K's, Green over K's, Ladola over K's. They're going to be getting guys out. I don't know how much their offense is going to help them, but Pirates are starting to figure out what they're all about. They got O'Neill out, but they're still they had the Astros and the Cardinals and they ended up 3-4. So
They played good, yeah. And
Pirates
they're
are playing.
winning. They're winning right now, like 7-0 in cores at cores or 9-1. So that'll
Yeah,
be another win for the Pirates.
nice.
Talking about my Angels over total, the other max bet I made was the Cubs over the total, and that was I think 77.5. I made two max future bets. They both look okay out the gate, so I was high on the Cubs because they upgraded basically their entire team, and it was like it was like 4 more wins than last year. I just didn't see them being worse. So I maxed it, and they look okay out the gates. The Brewers were my pick to win this division, just like you. They look good out the gates. I'm very impressed by Pittsburgh. They're just a fun team, and I in my preseason show I said they would be fun and be pesky. I didn't expect them to be this hot out the gates. They're definitely
Yeah.
a team that can lose 12 straight games, and they probably will at some point.
T1.
So we will see how that turns out in the NL Central. Any other thoughts there? Or it's kind of a bland division, how it like always is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals are going to be a little better than what they're showing.
Yeah,
You always expect
definitely.
them to. They're going to be there at the end of the year. There's not really a debate about that. You know, if,
Right.
if we see the Flaherty that we expect from him and Goldie and Arenado put up numbers, they're going to be all right. Gorman went absolutely nuts this week. Um, Michaelis, he's struggling, but I think they can figure it out. Yeah, I mean the Pirates got G1 Bays making plays every other day. Brian Reynolds, he's trying
Yeah.
to get that contract. He came out looking really good. So it's going to be both centrals are kind of toss ups.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to the NL West, where the unlikely Arizona Diamondbacks are currently leading the way with 9 wins over the Dodgers and the Padres. I can tell you right now that Diamondbacks will not win this division. I think this division is the Padres to lose, with the Dodgers, like, admittedly being down this year with a lot of new faces in that Dodgers lineup. So, how has the first 2 weeks gone for in the NL West for you?
Yeah, NL West, Dodgers. They're I kind of expected them to come off a little slow.
Yeah, for sure.
Urias is really making a Cy Young race. He's going to be in
So
that
is
talk.
Dustin May.
Yeah, Dustin May is looking phenomenal. Um, David Peralta's getting it done. Muncy's finally had a monster week. What do you have? He has got 5 homers, 12 RBIs. That's absolutely. That if you had him on your fantasy week, I don't know how you could have had a bad week. But the Padres had a rough week. They were 2-5 versus the Brewers and the Mets, and Darvish put on a spectacular performance the other day. 12 strikeouts, 7 innings. Weathers did good in New York. Bogarts earning every single cent of that contract. So Diamondbacks are definitely an exciting team to watch, but I don't know if they're going to be first place in the West all year.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Gallen's still dealing, man. He had 18 strikeouts. I don't know if that's on the year. 18 strikeouts on the year. Or maybe that was no, just this week. 18 strikeouts, 13.2 innings. Corbin Carroll looked really good. Rojas 356 average. So they got some guys to look out for.
Yeah, and touching back onto the Padres, in my preseason show, I thought they would be that team that just like was an absolute juggernaut in the regular season, just rolls over everyone with that roster that they have, and then everyone's hyping them up for the postseason, and they kind of take a step back because they're not really used to being in that World Series NLCS spot, which is fair, but they haven't really come out the gates too strong. 8 and 9 is not really what you would expect the Padres to be at this point of the year. I know they don't have Tatis yet, but that's obviously going to be a key piece. But they still, even without Tatis, their lineup is still sick and should be better than
Musgrove. I mean,
yeah, they're fine. They're definitely fine.
I think you can always count on Darvish. Their pitcher Lugo's looked absolutely nuts.
It's crazy. The starter, Seth Lugo, is looking nuts.
Good for him. I mean, he wanted to start. The Mets tried it out for a little bit. He started a couple games, eventually went to the bullpen, and it's just sometimes guys like that need to see a new environment, and I think their pitchers are going to figure it out. And once Tatis comes back in that lineup, I mean, I went to a game live and I was just sweating every at bat. You get into a jam and you're like, all right, got Juan Soto out. Oh damn, Machado. It's like got Machado out. Oh, Bogarts. It's like got Bogarts out. Now you got Cronenworth. You're probably missing someone else, but that lineup is absolutely nuts. And you add Tatis into that, and it's just I don't know how they're going to be dangerous once they get into the playoffs, if they do.
Yeah. No, they'll definitely get into the playoffs. So let's move over and talk about some batters to keep an eye on this week for fantasy, for DFS, for anything around that realm. I'm going to go with Austin Hayes from Baltimore. He came out the gate batting .350, which is solid. What I like about why I'm giving you Austin Hayes, I feel like they have favorable matchups down this week and I'll just say down this week. And he's got .350 average, but he's only got 6 RBIs. So I feel like that's just law of numbers. He keeps hitting well. The runs the batter in will come. So that's how you're going to make money in DFS. I like Austin Hayes this week. What's a batter you're keeping your eye on so far?
I really like the numbers that Mountcastle's put up. He had 4 home runs, 13 RBIs this week. I think Mountcastle is one of those guys that he's gonna give you consistent at bats. There's a lot of guys. There's some guys in that lineup that you're gonna have to pitch around. So I think he's a good guy to keep an eye on. I know Sean Murphy is gonna keep doing. He's really gonna get off days with Darno being out. So I look for Sean Murphy to keep it hot too.
Yeah. Any other batters that you like, or just those few guys? I mean, you gave a few.
Yeah, if you're looking for a reason to throw money on the Oakland Athletic for some reason, God help you. Brent Rooker, 10 hits.
I was gonna say Brent Rooker. I like that.
I don't know if he qualifies for a rookie, but that's one of that could be a rookie of the week candidate.
All right, let's talk some pitchers. I want to touch on the Nick Lodolo thing. Everyone, and their mother has been hammering his K prop, which I've never seen anything like. Like I was scrolling through Twitter, and everyone was betting. Like even people that don't bet baseball was like, "All right, Nick Lodolo over 7.5 Ks. That's a bet tonight." I'm like, why is everyone betting this? But he's been solid. He's like has a great ERA, and he's third in X. He's third in XFIP, which is like a stat that kind of predicts pitching better than ERA does. So he's definitely a guy. If you don't know him, I feel like you might because everyone is talking about him on Twitter. Take a look at him in your daily DFS slates.
Yeah, Lodolo is absolutely filthy. That's sad news because I thought I was smart and I thought I was one of the only ones doing that. But I guess
That's funny.
there's a lot of people on the Lodolo team, and I mean, yeah, that rotation, they're gonna give you some guys that are gonna put up some breathtaking games this year. So if there is a reason to tune into Reds baseball this year, but you'd have to check the starting pitchers beforehand. I like with Cole. I mean, obviously Cole, that man's on a mission. Like I said before, he's due for a Cy Young, just how Matt Snakes are due for a World Series. I mean, that would be a combo of World Series ring. It's looking like a preseason bet. But yeah, I mean, complete game shutout. How often do you see that in baseball nowadays? Pretty much never. 10 Ks, no earned runs versus the Twins. That's not a super poor lineup. You know, they got some guys in there that can rake. Like we talked about Luis Castillo. Darvish had a good start. You know, Burns finally started to figure out if Burns can go, that Brewers team can go. So even Zach Gallen, you know, that's a guy. I honestly thought maybe that was just a fluke, but that's a guy. So
Yeah, Jersey guy too. So gotta love that.
really,
My favorite, yeah, he is from Jersey. He went to Timber Creek. My favorite
really,
pitcher for tomorrow's slate. This will be up. So if you're watching this will be up today. That is going to be Alex Cobb of San Francisco. He has like a 4.3 ERA, but he's got one of the higher xFIPs or lower xFIPs in baseball. And like I said before, that stat kind of predicts ERA better than ERA does. It's fielding independent pitching for those who don't know what it means. And you're looking at the difference between those two stats. That's kind of saying that his ERA is due to come down, and he starts tomorrow against Miami, and it's a team who doesn't hit. So I kind of like Alex Cobb to be a hammer play if you're playing DFS tomorrow, and if you need to play him in fantasy, if you're able to, definitely throw him in your lineup, and that's Alex Cobb. Any other pitchers you want to touch on before we adjourn?
yeah. I mean, you know, Degrom's gonna do what Degrom does. He's starting to figure it out. There's some guys you don't really have to talk about. Pretty much, you know what they're going to give you. You know, Urquidy, Framber, they're starting to figure it out. Like we talked about Ohtani, Cy Young, MVP. He might just win both. So
might just win both. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. We touched on all the divisions, all the pitchers, batters. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you made it this far, 40 minutes. This is going to be most likely a weekly show between me and Chase, touching on division by division each week. So, Chase, thank you for joining me. Fun show. You know where to find us on Twitter. It's been rolling up. There it is. Follow us on Twitter. DM us any questions. You'll see us. Peace out. Catch you next week.